Hello creative people, welcome to my channel. This is Emily Green, I am a Spanish illustrator, and today we're taking things to the next level and adding some serious detail to this illustration. This step often takes the most time and explaining it all at once can be a bit overwhelming, so to make things easier I'm splitting this detailing process into two videos. In this video we'll focus on shading the girl's skin and her outfit, so get ready to learn all about my shading process, grab your favorite brushes and let's dive into it. We're going to start with the skin. First, I'm going to reduce the opacity of my sketch layer. Then I'll create a new layer just above the skin layer and I will set it to multiply mode and select my trusty smooth shades brush. I'll set the brush to maximum size and very little opacity, and I'll start shading the face from top to bottom, following the form from forehead to chin. Once I'm happy with the smooth shading, I'll open a new layer, again set to multiply mode, and I'll switch to my sketch brush to define the shadows that come from the elements around the face. And these include the cat, the girl's fringe, the hand in front of her mouth, and the hair. And here's the useful tip: before continuing, I'll also move the layers where I drew her facial features like the eyes, the nose and the mouth below the layers set to multiply mode. And this way those features will also be affected by the shading, creating a more natural depth. After defining the shadows from surrounding elements, I'll keep adding more shading with the multiply mode. I create new layers for each additional round of shading. I really like this layering technique because it allows me to build up the tones gradually, and this way I can achieve a richer and more natural look to the shading. I will repeat this process of adding multiplied layers and shading with smooth shades and sketch brushes until I'm happy with the overall result for the skin. Once I'm happy with the overall shading of the skin, I'll switch gears and focus on adding some subtle texture. I'll create a new layer set to multiply mode again, and this time I'll grab my denim brush and set it to the maximum size with very low opacity. This brush will create a beautiful noise effect that mimics the natural texture of skin. I really love this effect because it adds a touch of realism and helps the skin look less flat. It's a subtle detail, but it really does a big difference. I repeat this process of adding a noise texture with the denim brush on the rest of the skin layers, and I will focus on giving a few extra strokes to the darker areas to help accentuate the depth and realism of the shading. Freckles are optional, of course, but I'm going to give this girl some because I really love the touch of personality they add. For the eyes, I'm going to use a non-destructive technique to ensure that I stay within the lines. I'll select the layer containing her facial features and set it to alpha lock mode, and this will restrict any edits that I make to the layer within the existing boundaries of the eye shapes. Now I will choose a greyish green colour and I use my brush to define the pupils, and in this illustration I've decided to have her eyes looking upwards towards the kitten. Now that we've tackled the skin and eyes, let's move on to her outfit, and we'll start with her shirt. Before diving into the checkered pattern, I'm going to establish some basic outlines, and to do this I'll create a new layer set to multiply mode and grab my trusty sketch brush once again. With this brush, I'll carefully define the folds and wrinkles of the shirt to add some depth and dimension to the clothing before we add the checkered pattern. Using the same brush, I'm also going to add some very basic shades on a new layer. Now let's add some extra dimension to the shirt by focusing on specific areas. I want the color on the lower part of the shirt to be a tiny bit darker to create a sense of depth and realism. And to achieve this, I'll grab my sketch brush once again and create a new layer set to multiply mode. And with this layer selected, I'll fill in the color and the lower portion of the shirt. You can always adjust the opacity of this layer to fine-tune the intensity of the shading, just like I am doing here. Now that we've established the base for the shirt, it's time for the fun part, which is creating the beautiful checkered pattern. So the first thing I will do, which unfortunately I could not record, is create a new layer and set it to multiply. Then I grab my smooth shades brush and increase its opacity to the highest setting. Using this brush, I draw the vertical lines on the checkered pattern, and as I go along, I use my sketch brush set to erase mode to clean up any stray marks or unwanted portions of the lines. Once I finish, I will repeat the same process on a new layer, but drawing some horizontal lines this time. And once that's done, I will reduce the opacity of the lines to match the checkered pattern that I had previously drawn. Now I will draw some lighter lines to help the pattern appear more natural and textured. To achieve this effect, I'll create a new layer and set the blending mode to screen mode. This blending mode will lighten the base color of the shirt wherever we paint on this layer. The key here is to strategically place the lighter lines to create the illusion of a checkered pattern. And here's the thing, I'm going to position the new screen mode layer between the base color layer of the shirt and the multiply mode layers containing the darker checkered lines that we created earlier. And this placement ensures that the screen mode layer interacts with both the base color and the darker lines, creating a more natural overall effect. Now I'm going to add some subtle shading and texturing to make it look even more realistic. First, I'll create a new layer and set the blending mode to multiply. This layer will sit on top of all the existing layers related to the shirt, and that includes the base color and the checkered pattern lines. I grab my trusty smooth shades brush and set it to a larger size with a low opacity, and using this brush I'll gently add some shading to the shirt. I also want to add more texture to the fabric, so I'll create a new layer, again set to multiply mode, and this time I'll switch to my denim brush and set it to a larger size with a low opacity setting. Finally, I will create one more layer set to screen mode to help bring back some highlights and enhance the texture look of the fabric. And to do this, I will use again my denim brush. Now that the shirt is ready, it is time to move on to the trousers. I will repeat the same technique here that I used with the shirt. I will open a new layer set to multiply mode to draw the basic outlines and shades with my sketch brush. Then I'll open a new layer, also set to multiply mode, and add some soft shading using my smooth shades brush. And I will enhance the texture of the jeans using my denim brush. I use it in 2 layers, one set to multiply and one last one set to screen mode. And there we have it, the skin and the outfit of the girl are finished. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it useful, and don't forget to subscribe to watch the second part where I'll be showing you how I color the hair on this cute little kitten. But tell me, do you use similar techniques in your drawings? Let me know down there in the comments. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, where you'll be able to see all the illustrations I post, including the one that we're drawing here. Have a lovely day and see you in the next video. Bye!